Timo, welcome to Built Resilient. My name is Bart Walsh. I am a keynote speaker. I'm also a fitness expert. And you have stumbled upon a show that's all about answering the questions that I get after my keynote speeches. The questions that a lot of people around the world think about, but are very rarely spoken aloud. Questions whose answers can help a lot of people. And that's what I'm here to do. To hopefully help you become more mentally resilient, physically resilient, emotionally, relationally. I'm here to level you up by answering these questions. If you take anything away from today's episode, the best thing you can do for me is to share it. Share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with a boss, share it with your team if you're at work. And give us a 5-star rating, hit the subscribe button, and shoot Built Resilient up this algorithm. And if you have been to one of my keynote speeches before and you're listening to this, hey, bloody good to see you again. I hope you can take away something from today and indeed episodes in the future. And today, team, we are talking about something very poignant to us, something that we need to do, something that quite literally is our lifeblood. We're talking about nutrition. Before we get cracking, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to drop your defenses. I feel like every time I talk about nutrition, it's like talking about religion or politics. People take a side and they stand by that side and are never open to change. But look, coming from a guy who's found the wonderful power of nutrition, just how much it can impact your life, I need you to have an open mind, particularly with some of the stuff we're going to go through today. So promise me that. Drop those defenses, be open, and let's transform from where we are now into something better. Today's episode is about something we do every single day, often without thinking about it. We eat. But today I'm not here to sell you a diet plan. I'm not here to preach macros or how many grams of protein per kilo of body weight you need, even though it's important. In fact, I'm going to stick my neck out even further. I want to start today with a disclaimer. You don't even need to know anything about calories, macros, keto, intermittent fasting to start eating in a way that helps not just your brain, but your body and indeed your resilience. We're going to keep this human, simple and practical when it comes to eating for your mental health. But if you are curious about those details and want to dive a bit deeper into the structure of eating, meal timing, hey, reach out. hello@bartwalsh.com.au. Send your question in. We're going to do a question and answer episode very soon, and I'll be sure to address that a bit more acutely to you. Let's start here. Your brain takes up about 2% of your body weight, but it uses about 20% of your daily energy. And where does that energy come from? Food. Every thought that you think, emotion that you feel, and decision that you make is powered by the fuel you give your body. Here's what most people don't realize. You need certain things in your diet to thrive, and some things you need to even just survive. Your brain needs essential fatty acids like omega-3s to help regulate your mood. You may have heard of omega-3s before, found in fatty fish oil, very popular supplement. It's found in algae for the vegetarians out there, also found in nuts and seeds. You also need B vitamins and magnesium to produce neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. They aid in helping you feel well and feel healthy and feel happy. You need protein, certain amino acids, which are like little building blocks of proteins. You need these for your brain chemistry and certainly parts of your body. And you need a stable blood sugar to stay emotionally stable. I'm one of those guys, I'm sure there's a few people out there that are the same, that I succumb to the hangry feeling very often. And often that's got to do with these ups and downs of our blood sugar. And so if you're living off manufactured processed foods like caffeine, alcohol, beige carbs, and having just as beige thoughts, well, guess what kind of mood and mindset you're going to have. We've got to understand that our body, our human body, is completely integrated from mind to physicality. I like to think of this as your entire nervous system. If you've ever seen a picture of your entire nervous system, or if you've been to the Human Bodies exhibit, it's coming to Brisbane very soon, have a look at it. And what it is pictures and diagrams of your entire nervous system. It looks freaky, but it includes your brain. It includes all the nerves in your head. It includes your spine and all the nerves that shoot out into your body. Literally, your body and your brain are connected by this system, and how you move will affect how you think will affect how you move, how you eat will affect how you think, how you sleep will affect how you eat. All of these things are beautifully and intricately integrated, which is why looking at health from a one-stop point of view or a reductionist point of view, it often might help in the moment as like a band-aid, but isn't an answer to long-term health or answering long-term chronic health issues. There is a reason you feel anxious after a weekend takeout or foggy after a day of sugar and stimulants. Your body isn't being irrational. It's responding to the chemical chaos that we are feeding it. And that might be a bit alarmist, but stay with me. This is where nutritional psychiatry steps in, a field of science exploring just how food influences your brain, your mood, and your mental health. So let's just break this down a little bit. It took me a while to wrap my head around this. Your brain is a chemical factory. Serotonin, dopamine, some stuff called GABA, which you may have heard before, which has got a lot to do with your nervous system upregulating and downregulating. These aren't abstract ideas or just made up words. They are real chemicals made of real nutrients, mostly made in your gut. If we don't provide the raw materials through our food, the proteins, the vitamins, the minerals, that factory in your gut shuts down and then starts finding shortcuts, starts cutting corners. Now imagine trying to stay calm, motivated and focused and confident, which we all want to be, whilst your brain is running on scraps. It's running on a factory that's cutting corners and just finding a way to get the job done. That's what millions of people try to do every single day when they live on convenient food, rely on caffeine, and unbeknownst to them, eat mostly processed foods. And then we blame ourselves for being lazy or emotional. Oftentimes, you're not overly emotional, you're not moody, you're not broken. You are either undernourished or misnourished. Now, your gut and your brain. I love this topic and it still fascinates me to this day. I understood the connection between the gut and the brain, or I started to understand it many, many years ago. Your gut and your brain are connected by a system of nerves called the vagus nerve. You may have heard of this before. You can sort of hijack the vagus nerve to make you feel relaxed and put you in a meditative state. But it essentially is a two-way communication pathway from your brain and to your gut. And when your gut is healthy, it sends signals of calm, safety, and stability up to your brain. When your gut is inflamed or imbalanced, it sends signals of distress, anxiety, and fatigue. And people with irritable bowel syndrome know this all too well. They experience anxiety and depression, or most of them have a higher potential for anxiety and depression because of what's happening in their gut. And it's not a coincidence. And this is something that you can start thinking about now. When you eat certain foods, how does your gut feel? Take that moment to have a think about what's happening in here. And if you find that you've always got tummy bubbles, you find that your joints are always sore, you find that you're always lethargic after eating certain foods, most likely processed foods, then your body's trying to wave a white flag at you, but you're just not listening. And I know this sounds a bit preachy coming from the fitness guy, but I think it's something that every single person can benefit from. If we put more intention into looking after the bugs in our gut, feeding them a diverse amount of fiber, you're going to see a wholesale change, particularly if you've never focused on that before. And so I was looking at a bit of research that I could find to back this up, and there was a study called the SMILES study. Yeah, that's the real name of it. And it showed that people with moderate to severe depression improved significantly by switching to a Mediterranean-style diet. And some even went into remission without changing anything else. And a Mediterranean diet, for those who are uninformed, it's a whole food-based diet, which means we're eating foods with one ingredient: fruits, vegetables, fish. There's a lot of good fats in the Mediterranean diet, but a diverse array of foods. And it's been promoted as a really good option for longevity, as well as people with diabetes to reduce inflammation and help with insulin sensitivity. There's a lot of research behind that way of eating. And then the researchers at Harvard called diet one of the most powerful and underused tools in treating mood disorders. And I think there's a lot of academics that are in this boat too. We see nutrition as hedonism. in the modern day world, when really it is much, much, much more than that. And look, I mentioned before that I feel nutrition a bit differently than most people. I do. I have a nerve condition, and those who have seen my speeches before, you know what I'm talking about. I have a nervous system condition that affects my lower legs and my hands, my peripheral nervous system. It means I'm slowly losing them. It's a pretty harrowing story. And the symptoms of this condition are numerous. It's called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, or CMT, or hereditary motor and sensory peripheral neuropathy, if you want to be really nerdy about it. The symptoms are numerous. One is obvious muscle wastage and nerve deactivation. My nerves are eroding, but it also affects my balance, my proprioception, my feeling of my body in space. But also stuff like my internal body temperature, my anxiety. My body is always trying to find stability in my feet, but not finding it. And that just drives my brain absolutely crazy. But the thing is, with all of these symptoms, including the nerve pain I have, I can control these symptoms with what I eat. If I eat a diet like the Mediterranean diet, a whole food-based diet, one that's low inflammatory, all of a sudden my balance is better. My nerve pain is less severe. And my anxiety is a lot less too. And then conversely, if I eat the poor food, all those symptoms ramp up. The inflammation in the gut makes the nervous system just go into overdrive. I can barely think, and sometimes I can barely move because of what I eat. So I've understood the true power of nutrition, and this power can be translated into someone who doesn't have my condition as well, just like you. How we eat is literally who we become. You are what you eat. And if you want to become a packet of milk arrowroot biscuits, hey, keep eating those arrowroot biscuits. But if you want to become something a bit more diverse, something that's full of nutrients, something that's full of life, then hey, maybe we need to shift our diet into something a bit more whole food based. Now I want to get practical here. And for reference, eating for either your physical or mental health is not about dieting. In fact, I hate that word. I hate the word dieting. It's not about dieting. It's about strategic nourishment. These rules I'm about to go through are not perfect, but they are principles that anyone can take forward. The first is to eat real food. We mentioned this a bit before already. And I want you to eat real food most of the time. It doesn't have to be 100% of the time. In fact, I think if you aim for 100% of the time, you're setting yourself up for failure, particularly in this modern world. But here's a good rule of thumb. If your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize it as a food, then maybe let's think twice about it. Real foods like vegetables, eggs, legumes, whole grains, meats, I'd put dairy in there in some circumstances. All of this is packed with nutrients that your brain and your body needs. And ultra-processed foods, well, it's engineered. It's engineered to hit your taste buds hard. It's engineered down to the texture. It's engineered down to leaving the powder on your fingertips when you eat a packet of Twisties. They want that to happen because that's all a part of the experience. They want you to make sure you come back and buy more. But they offer very little in regards to nutrients that your body needs. You do get that dopamine spike, which is why we go back for more, but you don't get the substance. And now we don't have to make it complicated. Just aim for food that looks like it came from the earth and not a vending machine, and eat it for about 80% of the time. The second tip is to build balanced meals. Each meal you have is an opportunity to support your body and support your chemistry. As the age-old adage goes, food can either fight disease or feed it. And a way to have it fight disease that's really, really simple is this. Commit to 3 meals a day. And make sure those 3 meals have a balance of foods around it. I'm about to take you through it now. So if you're not quite sure what protein, carbohydrates, and fats are, your mission is to do a little bit of homework and find one of those each that you like. So 3 meals a day, I want your plate to look like this. I want it to have 1 to 2 portions of protein. What does that look like? Have a look at your hand. The size of your palm, the size of it and the width of it is about 1 portion of protein. So this could be some fish. It could be, 3 or 4 eggs, which sounds like a little bit, but that's the sort of protein I want you to be hitting. It could be some sort of meat. If you're vegan or vegetarian, we could look into tofu, either silken or hard. We can look into beans and rice. I want you to make sure you have 1 to 2 portions of protein. And then I want you to have 1 to 3 portions of carbohydrates, depending on your weight and how active you are. Let's just start simple and start with 1. Again, have a look at your hand and cup it like you're trying to hold as much rice in your hand as possible. If you're watching this, you can see it here. If you're not, that's okay. Try and play with me here. I want you to have 1 to 3 cupped handfuls of carbohydrates. I want you to have 1 to 2 thumb-sized portions of fat. So have a look at your thumb, the length and the width of it, that's 1 portion of fat. So it could be the olive oil you put on your salad, or it could be the olive oil you put on your potatoes. It could be an avocado. If you're having eggs, your fat's sort of already taken care of as long as your protein. So to reiterate your theme, I want you to have 1 to 2 palm-sized portions of protein, 1 to 3 cupped handful portions of carbohydrates, 1 to 2 thumb-sized portions of fats, and then as a bit of an extra garnish and extra food for your bugs in your gut, I want you to add 1 to 2 fist-sized portions of vegetables. Have a look at your fist. That's about the size of veggies I want you to be getting on your plate. It could be broccoli, could be pumpkin, could be beans, it could be cauliflower, it could be asparagus. In fact, keep it diverse. If you simply do that 3 times a day, a lot of these boxes will be ticked, both for your body and for your mind. Tip number 3 is to avoid the starve-binge cycle, which seems to be ever more evident in today's society. Skipping meals feels productive, particularly breakfast, but often it puts pressure on us later in the day. If you deprive your body, you'll end up overcompensating in one way or another. Often it's at 9 p.m. in the pantry with a block of chocolate. For 99.9% of people I coach, we start with eating 3 square meals, as we mentioned before. And this is to manage our blood sugar and our cravings, particularly for breakfast. It allows us to hit the protein targets and fiber targets that I want you to hit. And most importantly, it allows us to get enough food in. And if you hear this and you're thinking, well, I'm not hungry in the morning, so I just won't eat breakfast. This is 100% true. You are not hungry, but let's reframe that statement. Let's reframe that statement to the bugs in my gut aren't used to eating in the morning, and that's why I'm not hungry. And that's a good distinguisher to understand. If we want to make dietary changes, your body's not going to be used to it, and it takes time for these changes to take habit. Dietary changes need an adjustment period. They need an adjustment period to become a habit. So start small and be consistent. And look, there's a beautiful duality when it comes to healthy eating. Yes, we need to eat less of the bad stuff, but we also need to eat more of the good stuff. And so often where I start with a lot of people is introducing the good stuff first, and then watching that bad stuff just slowly make its way out as we try and hit the targets that we need. So understand that. It's not just about depriving your body. It's about swapping out the calories you're eating with the processed food and replacing it with the nutrient-dense good food that we're encouraging you to eat. Tip number 4 is a simple one, and it is to hydrate. Drink water. For most of you, more water than you are drinking right now. Remember that your nervous system is an electrical system, and water can help conduct electricity. This might be my speculation here, but a more hydrated body will lead to a more efficient nervous system and more effective neuron firing in your brain. And look, I know you've been told this hydration stuff time and time again, but it's definitely worth repeating. Don't overlook your hydration. We often need to drink more than we actually are already. And I fell into the cohort of people who thought they were being hydrated but actually weren't. And the time I realized this was when I started taking a high sodium electrolyte. I realized I was eating such a good diet that my sodium levels were very low. When we eat a lot of processed food, there's lots of sodium in there already, and often we're encouraged to limit our sodium, limit our salt. But for me, a guy who was exercising a lot, eating really healthy, didn't salt his food, my sodium levels were really low. And when I introduced that electrolyte, I realized that I was getting water into my system, but I wasn't retaining it. It was just coming out the other end. And the sodium I had then pulls that water into those cells and helps those cells become hydrated. And this is why electrolytes are so powerful for people who do sports and people who hit the gym. And so if you are out there and you already eat a very good whole food diet, you don't salt your food, you have very little sodium in your diet, and you train hard, then consider looking into electrolytes, particularly ones that are high in sodium. And the final tip I'll give you today, number 5, is to eat with your nervous system in mind. You can eat the healthiest diet, the healthiest food in the world, but if you're eating it while in an anxious, distracted, or tense state, your body might not be digesting it properly. The parasympathetic nervous system, you may have heard of that word before, it's your rest and digest nervous system. It needs to be on for proper digestion and nutrient absorption. It's not to say that you won't digest your food if you're stressed. It's that you will digest and extract the nutrients from your food better if you are relaxed. So before a meal, try this. It's weird, but it works. Take some deep breaths. Put down your phone. Chew slower than you normally chew, and consciously eat slowly. This is mindfulness in action. You are going to feel like a total weirdo, but have a feel of how your tummy feels after you actually chew your food properly. And I think there's a link between this mindfulness before we eat, and even in like religious cultures, like there's a reason why we pray before a meal in certain religions, and I'm sure that's of course to give grace to your worshipping idol, but it's also physiological because that gratitude calms your nervous system down, understands the connection of everyone in the room, and puts you in a better state to digest. Just a bit of speculation on my end. Okay, let's wrap this baby up. You don't need to track every single bite. You don't need to eat perfectly. If you want to and you want to know how, then write in. Be specific. Tell me about you. Tell me about your context. Tell me about your nutrition. And write your question into hello@bartwalsh.com.au. But if you want more energy, more focus, and a more resilient mind and body, start by feeding yourself with the respect that you deserve. You are not a garbage bin. You are not a project to be fixed. You're a living organism that needs fuel, it needs nutrient, it needs nourishment, it needs real, stable, nourishing fuel to not just survive, but thrive. So let's stop eating on purely hedonism, and let's eat with our whole being in mind. Team, thanks for listening to the show today. I feel very grateful to be in your ear holes and to have your attention. So thank you. As always, if you've got time, hit the 5-star rating, hit the subscribe button. And if you have any questions or you want to contribute to the show, hello@bartwalsh.com.au. And hey, if you want to connect with me, you can reach me on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Instagram. I'm at walsh.fit. Or you can just send me an email. Happy to chat. Happy to see how we can collaborate in future. Team, get out there, eat well, and choose resilience.